Shem is as short for Seamus as Jem is jokey for Jacob. A few toughnecks are still get-at-able who pretend that aboriginally he was of respectable stemming. He was an outlegs between the lines of Ragnar Blaubarb and Harold Hairwire, and an in-law to Captain the Honourable and Reverend Mr. Birdwood de Troblog was among his most distant connections. But every honest-to-goodness man in the land of the space of today knows that his back life will not stand being written about in black and white. Putting truth and untruth together, a shot may be made at what this hybrid actually was like to look at. Shem's bodily get-up, it seems, included an adze of a skull, an eighth of a lark's eye, the whole of a nose, one numb arm up a sleeve, 42 hairs off his uncrown, 18 to his mock lip, a trio of barbels from his mega-gagged chin, so man's son, the wrong shoulder higher than the right, all ears, an artificial tongue with a natural curl, not a foot to stand on, a handful of thumbs, a blind stomach, a deaf heart, a loose liver, 2/5 of 2 buttocks, 1 Gliedstein avoirdupoire for him, a man-root of all evil, a salmon-cal's thin skin, eel's blood in his cold toes, a bladder tristended. So much so that young Master Shemmy, on his very first debauch, at the very dawn of proto-history, seeing himself such and such, when playing with thistleworts in their nursery garden, Griefotrophio, at Fig Street 111, Shufflin, Old Holland. Would we go back there now for sounds, pillings, and scents? Would we now for Annas and Annas? Would we for full score 8 in the Liretta? For 12 blocks 1 bob? For 4 testers 1 groat? Not for a dinar, not for Joe. Dictated to all his little brethren and Swisterines the first riddle of the universe, asking, when is a man not a man? Telling them take their time, Jungfries, and wait till the tide stops. For from the first his day was a fortnight, and offering the prize of a bitter-sweet crab, a little present from the past, for their copper age was as yet unminted, to the winner. One said, when the heavens are Quakers. A second said, when Bohemian lips. A third said, when hold hard a jiffy, when he is a Gnostic and determined too. The next one said, when the angel of death kicks the bucket of life. Still another said, when the wine's at wit's ends. And still another, when lovely woman stoops to conk him. One of the litliest ones said, me, Sam, when Papa papart the harbour. One of the witliest said, when he yeet ye ablokuchen, and he smear himself so shuken. Still one said, when you are old, I'm grey, fall full with sleep. And still another, when we deader Wagner. And another, when he is just only after having been semi-sized. Another, when he hath no bananas. And one, when those pigs they begin now that they will flies up until the Luft. All were wrong. So Shem himself, the dictator, took the cake. The correct solution being, all give up? When he is yours till the rending of the rocks, Shem. Shem was a sham, and a low sham, and his lowness creeped out first via foodstuffs. So low was he, that he preferred Gibson's tea-time salmon tin, as inexpensive as pleasing, to the plumpest roe-heavy legs or the friskiest par or smalt troutlet that ever was gaffed between Leakslip and Island Bridge. And many was the time he repeated in his botulism that no jungle-grown pineapple ever smacked like the whoppers you shook out of Ananias cans, find later and Gladstone's Corner House, England. None of your inch-thick blue-blooded balaclava fried at belief steaks, or juice jelly legs of Greg's molten mutton, or greasily gristly grunter's coupons, or slice upon slab of luscious goose bosom with lump after load of plum pudding stuffing, or a swim in a swamp of bog oak gravy for that Greek-hearted dude. Roast beef of Old Zealand? He could not touch it. See what happens when your somatophage merman takes his fancy to our vegetarian swan? He even ran away with himself and became a far soonerite, saying he would far sooner muddle through the hash of lentils in Europe than meddle with Ireland's split little pea. Once, when among those rebels in a state of hopelessly helpless intoxication, the Pisky War strove to lift a sit-round peel to either nostril, hiccuping, apparently impromptued by the hibbert he had with his glottal stop, that he could flourish forever by the smell, as the sitter, as the cedron, like the cedar of the founts on mountains with lemon on of Lebanon. Oh, the lowness of him was beneath all up to that sanctu. No liked by like firewater, or first served first shot, or gullet burnt gin, or honest brew buried beer either. Oh dear no. Instead, the tragic jester sobbed himself very whingingly sick of life on some sort of a barbarous mandarin yellow-green funkel blue windigot diodying applejack, squeezed from sour grapefruits, and, to hear him twixt his sedimental cup slips when he had gulped down much too many gourds of it, retching off to his almost as low whiz-swillers, who always knew notwithstanding when they had had enough, and were rightly indignant at the wretch's hospitality, when they found to their horror they could not carry another drop. It came straight from the noble white fat, Joe, open-wide set, Joe, her why hide that, Joe, the wine wet, of the most serene Magyar's tea as archdiocese. If she's a duck, she's a douches, and when she has a fair bourse, not her fault now, is it? Art's touch-ups, funny you're grinning at, fancy you're in her yet, Fanny Urinia. Ain't that swell, hey? Pimengro. Talk about lowness. Any dog's quantity of it visibly oozed out thickly from this dirty little blackling beetle. For the very fourth snap, the Tulloch Turnbull girl with her cold-blood Kodak shotted the as yet unremunerated national apostate, who was cowardly gun and camera shy, taking what he fondly thought was a shortcut to Carefair, Soak Americas, via the ship's steam pride win, after having buried a hatchet not so long before, by the wrong goods exeunt, nomadeshta tren, into patata papaveris, fruiterers and musical florists, with his Chaho Chavi, Sashin Shilipen. She knew the vice out of Bridewell was a bad fast man by his walk on the spot. John's a different butcher's. Next place you are uptown, pay him a visit. Or better still, come to buy. You will enjoy cattleman's spring meat. John's is now quite divorced from baking. Fattens, kills, flays, hangs, draws, quarters and pieces. Feel his lambs. X. Feel how sheep. XX. His liver too is great value, a speciality. XXX. Communicated. Around that time, moreover, one generally hoped, for love of money, or at any rate suspected among morticians, that he would early turn out badly, develop hereditary pulmonary TB, and do for himself one dandy time. Nay, of a pelting night blanketed creditors, hearing a coarse song and splash off Eden Quay, sighed and rolled over, sure all was up. But, though he fell heavily and locally into debit, Not even then could such an antinomian be true to type. He would not put fire to his cerebrum. He would not throw himself in Liffey. He would not explode himself with romantics. He refused to suffocate himself with a sod. With the foreign devil's leave, the freight-borne fraud diddled even death. Anzi, cabled, but shaking the words out of his mouth. Guarda costa leporello. Jesus Christ. From his nearer publican asylum to his Jonathan for a brother. Here to Kay, gone to Mori, we're splotched, do something, fireless. And had answer, inconvenient, David. You see, chaps, it will trickle out. Freak-silly, of course. But the tom and the shorty of it is, he was in his bardic memory low. All the time he kept on treasuring, with condign satisfaction, each and every crumb of track talk, covetous of his neighbor's word, and if ever, during a munda conversazione commoted in the nation's interest, delicate tippets were thrown out to him touching his evil courses by some well-wishers vainly pleading by scriptural arguments with the opprobrious papist about what about trying to brace up for the kidos of the thing, scallywag, and be a man instead of a damn scrounger, dish it all. Such as, pray, what is the meaning, Sousie, of that continental expression, if you ever came across it? We think it is a word conspicuously like canaille. Or, did you anywhere, kennel, on your gullible's travels or during your rural troubadouring, happen to stumble upon a certain gay young nobleman whimpering to the name of Low Swine, who always addresses women out of the one corner of his mouth, lives on loans in his 33 years of age? Without one sign of haste, like the supreme prig he was, and not a bit sorry, he would pull a vacant landlubber's face, root with earwaker's pensile in the outer of his lauscher, and then, lisping, the prattle-paid Parnella, to kill time and swatting his dead best to think what under the canopies of Jensen's crest would any decent son of an Albert gentleman who had been to an university think, let a land hit a hint and begin to tell all the intelligentsia admitted to the Temelasi Samtalasi conclamazione, since, still and before, panesthetic physicians, lawyers merchant, belfry politicians, agricolas manufacturers, sacristans of the Pure River Society, philanthropics, lodging on as many boards round the peninsula at the same time as possible. The whole lifelong shrine story of his entire low Cornai existence, abusing his deceased ancestors wherever the swords were, and one moment terror-booming great blunderguns, about his far-famed fine Poppermore, Mr. Hum-Hum, whom history, climate, and entertainment made the first of his sept and always up to date. Though Evans ears how many fines he faces. And another moment, Weisan Viersas, crouching 3 years, for his rotten little ghost of a peppy bag, Mr. Himishimi, a blighty, a reeky, a lighty, a scrapey, a babbly, a ninny, 37th among thieves, and always bottom sawyer, till no one knowed how homely home could be, giving unsolicited testimony on behalf of the absent, as glib as Eve's water, to those present, who meanwhile, with increasing lack of interest in his semantics, allowed various subconscious smickers to drivel slowly across their features. Unconsciously explaining, for instance, with a meticulosity bordering on the insane, the various meanings of all the different foreign parts of speech he misused, and cuttle-fishing every lie unshrinkable about all the other people in the story, leaving out, of course, for consciously, the simple warp and plague and poison they had cornered him about, until there was not a snoozer among them but was utterly undeceived in the heel of the reel by the recital of the rigmarole. He went without saying that the cull disliked anything anyway approaching a plain, straightforward stand-up or knockdown row, and as often as he was called in to umpire any octagonal argument among slangwangers, the accomplished washout always used to rub shoulders with the last speaker and clasp shakers, the hand touch which is speech without words, and agreed to every word as soon as half uttered. "Command me, your servant. Good. I revere you. How, my seer? Be drinking that? Quite truth, gracious. I'm Yush. See what I'm hearing? Also goods. Please it, me sure? Be filling this. Quisu, you said it, Apasa fellow. Muchas gracias. Is there firing on me? Is there girlic on you? To your good self, your sulphur." And then at once focus his whole unbalanced attention upon the next octagonist who managed to catch a listener's eye, asking and imploring him out of his piteous one-winker, Hemoptysia Diodomenos, whether there was anything in the world he could do to please him and to overflow his tumbled tantalizer for him yet once more. One hail cannon night, for his departure was attended by a heavy downpour, as very recently as some thousand rains ago, he was therefore treated with what closely resembled personal violence, being soggered all unsuspectingly through the deserted village of Tumblin-on-the-Leafy, from Mr. von Homrich's house at 81 bis Mabbott's Mall, as far as Green Patch beyond the brickfields of Salmon Pool, by rival teams of slow spears counter-quicklimers, who finally, as rarely they had been detained out rather latish, thought, business hits business, they had better be streaking for home after their Auburn to Auburn, with thanks for the pleasant evening, one and all disgustedly, instead of ruggering him back and awake, reconciled, though they were as jealous as could be cullions over the truffles they had brought on him, to a friendship, fast and furious, which merely arose out of the noxious pervert's perfect lowness. Again there was hope that people, looking on him with the contempt of the contemptibles, after first giving him a roll in the dirt, might pity and forgive him, if properly deloused. But the pleb was born a quick low, and sank a lowing till he stank out of sight. All saints beat Belial. Mickle goals to nickel. Not possible. Already? In nowhere has yet the whole world taken part of himself for his wife. By no whom have poor parents been sentenced to worms, blood, and thunder for life. Not yet has the amp up from Corsica forced the arse out of Angleterre. Not yet have the Saxon and Yuder on the mound of a word made war. Not yet Witchy of Wench has struck fire of his heath from on Hoth. Not yet his arcobalane has forspoken peace upon oath. Cleft foot from Hempel must tumble, blameful gardeners bound to fall. Broken eggs will perceive bitten apples, for where there's will, there's his wall. But the mount still frowns upon the millstream, while their mad sons leap over his bier. And their rill still lifts to his Mercius, all her daft daughters laugh in her ear. Till the four shores of deaf Tory Island let the doosdom airwigs rie. Herp, for their missed understandings, chirps the ballad of Père Soleil. O fortunes casualitas! Lefty takes the carob cake, while righto cloves his hoof. Darkies never done tuck that coon out to play non-excretory, anti-sexuous, misogynetic, gassy, pure, flesh-and-blood games. Written and composed and sung and danced by Nesimus Niemann, same as pickaninnies play all day. Those old none of your honeys and rubbers. Games for fun and element we used to play with Dinah, and old Joe kicking her behind and before, and the yellow girl kicking him behind old Joe. Games like Thom Thom the Thunderman, Put the Wind Up the Peeler, Hat in the Ring, Prison Your Pritchards and Play with Us Team, Michael on the Lucky Pig, Nickel in the Slot, Sheila Harnett and Her Cow, Adam and Elle, Humble Bumble, Moggies on the Wall, Twos and Threes, American Jump, Fox Come Out of Your Den, Broken Bottles, Writing a Letter to Punch, Tip Top is a Sweet Store, Henry Crumb Expold, Postman's Knock, Are We Fairlies Represented, Solomon's Silent Reading, Apple Tree Pearstone, I Know a Washerwoman, Hospitals, As I Was Walking, There's One's House and Dreamcaller Hour, Battle of Waterloo, Colors, Eggs in the Bush, Haberdasherisher, Telling Your Dreams, What's the Time, Nap, Ducking Mammy, Last Man Standing, Healy Baboon and the Forky Thiegs, Fickle Eyes and Futileers, Hand Marries But Once in My Life and I'll Never Commit Such a Sin Again, Zip Cooney Candy, Turkey in the Straw, This is the Way We Sow the Seed of a Long and Lusty Morning, Hops of Fun at Milliken's Make, I Seen the Toothbrush with Pat Farrell, Here's the Fat to Graze the Priest's Boots, When His Steam Was Like a Rembrandt round McGarvey. Now, it is notoriously known how on that surprisingly bludgeony Unity Sunday, when the Grand Gurmagal All-Star bout was harrily the rage between our Welting Toms Extraordinary and our Pity Six the Marshallasey, and Irish eyes of welcome were smiling daggers down their backs, when the Rothwise and Blouse met the Noir Blanc and Rouge, and the grim White and Cold met the Black Fighting Tans, categorically unimperatived by the maxims, rank funk getting the better of him, the Scot, in a bad fit of pyjamas, fled like a leveret for his bare lives to Talviland, a Honahaza, pursued by the scented curses of all the village bells, and, without having struck one blow, pig stole on him was lust, he lagging it was because dust he shook, Cushy corked himself up tight in his ink battle house, badly the worse for booze gas, there to stay in afar for the life, where, as there was not a moment to be lost, after he had boxed around with his fortepiano till he was hold bamp him Bach and bump him blues, he collapsed carefully under a bed tick from Schwitzer's, his face enveloped into a dead warrior's telemac, with a lullaby sombonnet and a water wattle as his feet, to stoke his energy of waiting, moaning feebly in Montmarian monotheme, but tunnel long and then a nation louder, while engaged in swallowing from a large ampuller, that his Paudry's purgatory was more than a nigger bloke could bear, hemi-paralyzed by the tongue warfare and all the shemozzle. Daily Maily, full up lace, holy Maily, mother lobchows. His cheeks and trousers changing color every time a cat croaked. How is that for low, ladies and gentlenuns? Why, dog of the Crostigans, whole continents rang with this Cairo-Coiran lowness. Shoals of houris and Shems upon divans, revolted Stellas Vespertine among them, at a bare, mention of the scaly ribald exclaimed, Poisse! But would anyone, short of a madhouse, believe it? Neither of those clean little cherubim, Nero or no book is honester himself, ever nursed such a spoiled opinion of his monstrous marvelosity as did this mental and moral defective. Here perhaps at the venascence of his lowness, who was known to grunt rather than gunnet on one occasion, while drinking heavily of spirits, to that interlocutor a latere and private privy secretary he used to pal around with in the Carvey-house, one Davy Brown Nowlan, his heaven-laid twin. This ham-boned dog poet pseudoed himself under the hang-name he gave himself of Beth Gellert. In the porchway of a gypsy's bar, Shem always blaspheming, so holy writ Billy, he would try old Belly, and pay this one-man-jack congregant of his 4 soups every lass of next mouth bolly, so sure as there's a tail on a comet, as a taste for a storic's 40 tooth, that is to say, to listen out, only 20 minis more, bully, his ballade imaginaire, which was to be dubbed Wine, Woman and Water Clocks, or How a Guy Thinks and Forks When He's Going Batty, by Maître Chemis de la Plume, some most dreadful stuff in a murderous mirror hand. That he was aware of no other Shakespeare, other Shakespeare, either precisely unlike his polar antithesis, or precisely the seams as as what he fancied or guessed the same as he was himself. And that, great scoot, duckings and thuggery, though he was foxed fox to fox, like a bunny boy Roger, with all the tea-shop lions of Lumdrum hosed up against him, being a lapsus linguo with a rubbed-up shorter temper, bad cat, dad, fat, sad, mad, nad, van Haiti fear. The consequences of casuality pre-pestered crosswords and postposition, scruff, scruffer, scrufferoo merrymost, and all that sort of thing. If Reams stood to reason, and his Lankeliff line lasted, he would wipe alley English spooker, Malta von Yaxically spooking, off the face of the airs. After the thorough fright he got that bloody Swithin's day, though every doorpost in much-tried locally sort was smeared with generous earth-born gore, and every free-for-all cobbleway slippery with the bloods of heroes crying to welkins for others, and Noahs and culverts agush with tears of joy, our low-waster never had the common Balaam's pluck to stir out and about the compound, while everyone else of the torch-lit throng, slashers and sliced alike, mobu on massa, waded and baded around, yamp yam pamp yam, chanting the Giloli chorus from the monster book of patriotic poetry, O pura e pia bella. In junket sampam or in secular sincalarum, heads up, under bona fide avocations. The little folk creeping on all fours to their natural school treat, but childishly gleeful when a stray whizzer sang out intermediately. And happy belongers to the fairer sex, on their usual quest for higher things, but vying with Lady Smythe to avenge MacJobber, went stone-stepping with their bickerstaffs on educated feet, plinkety-plonk, across the 7-span Ponte dei Colori, set up over the slop after the war to end war by Messrs. A charitable government. For the only once, dear dos finados, he did take a Tom Pip Peep Estrella through a 3-draw 18 Hawks-power Dickey telescope, luminous to larboard only like the lamps in Nassaustrasse, out of his westernmost keyhole, spitting at the impenetrabilum wetter, and it was porco ghastly that autumn, with an each-way hope in his shivering soul, as he prayed to the cloud incertitude, of finding out for himself, on account of all the cools in Kruka Parka, or owing to all the Kozeoks in Kalatavala, whether true conciliation was forging ahead or falling back after the Celestia's intemperance, and, for Double-Sache, why, with his See and his My Corvus, and his Fisker Fosker Fasker layin loves in meing seeing, he got the charm of his optical life when he found himself, hic-sunt Linones, at point-blank range, blinking down the barrel of an irregular revolver of the bulldog with a purpose pattern, handled by an unknown quarreller who, supposedly, had been told off to shade and shoot shy Shem should the shit show his shiny snout out a while to look facts in their face before being holed and creased, uprip and jack him, by 6 or a dozen of the gay boys. What, parasaum plaum, in the names of Deucalion and Pyrrha, and the incensed privy and the licensed pantry gods, and Stator and Victor, and Cut and Run, and the whole mesa redonda of Lorenzao, Ortulas, and Convocasaon, was this disinterestingly low human type, this calumnious column of cloacity, this Bengalese beacon of biloxity, this Annamite aper of atrocity, really Ed, it will be precise to qualify, for he seems in a bad case? The answer, to do all the ditties in one deal, would sound: from pulling himself on his most flavored canal, the huge chest house of his elders, the Popa Preta and some navies, he had flickered up and flinnered down into a drug and drankery addict, growing megalomane of a loose past. This explains the litany of septuagintal letter trumpets, honorific, high-pitched, erudite, neoclassical, which he so loved as patricianly to manuscribe after his name. It would have diverted, if ever seen, the shuddersome spectacle of this semi-demented zany amid the inspissated grime of his glaucous den, making believe to read his uselessly unreadable blue book of Eccles, Edition de Ténèbres. Even yet, sighs the most different Dr. Pointe-Duc, authorized Baudelaire and censor, it can't be repeated. Turning over 3 sheets at a wind, telling himself delightedly, no Espeler more so, that every splurge on the vellum he blundered over was an aisling vision more gorgeous than the one before, TITS, a rose-shell cottage by the sea for nothing forever, a lady's tyrant hosiery raffle at Liberty, a sewer full of guinea gold wine with branco-mange patero pie and 6-cylinder oysters worth $1 billion a bite, an entire opera house. There was to be stamping room only in the prompter's loudbox, and ever the more his queue kept swelling. Of enthusiastic noblewomen flinging every coronet crimson stitch they had off at his proscenium, one after the others, enamor-goaded into a justly losing themselves in their gaiety pantheomime, when, egad, sir, according to all the accounts strict, he squealed the top squall in deal little Shem lock-up yellin'. Gee whiz, d'you hear that far? So pure, loud gout of Sabaeus, juice like a Boyd. For fully 5 minutes, infinitely better than Barrington McLuckin, with a scrumptious cocked hat and 3 green cheese and tangerine trimity plumes on the right-handled side of his Amarella's head. A coat McFarlane, the cursed cut, you understand, a Spaniard's digger at his ribs, Alfayate Punxit, an azul-blue blowsheet for his blouse bosom blossom, and a Dean's crozier that he won from Cardinal Lindonderry and Cardinal Carchengerry and Cardinal Loriotuli and Cardinal Occidentacha. Aho! In the Dearby Derby, doubled for falling first over the hurdles, madam, in the other hand, A80SOT. But what with the murky light, the botchy print, the tattered cover, the jig-jagged page, the fumbling fingers, the fox-trotting fleas, the lyre-bed lice, the scum on his tongue, the drop in his eye, the lump in his throat, the drink in his pottle, the itch in his palm, the wail of his wind, the grief from his nose, the dig in his ribs, the age of his arteries, the weight of his breath, the fog of his mind-fag, the buzz in his brain-tree, the tick of his conscience, the height up his rage, the gush down his fundament, the fire in his gorge, the tickle of his tail, the bane in his bullocks, the squints in his soul, the rot in his eater, the echo in his era, the totters of his toes, the tatters on his tum-ti-tum, the rats in his garret, the bats in his belfry, the budgeriggers and bombusculum bowbirds, the hullabaloo and the dust in his ears. Since it took him a month to steal a march, He was hard set to marmorize more than a word a week. Hakes Holland, Hooks Fisk. Can you beat it? Well, I say, can you bait it? Was there ever heard of such low-down blackguardism? Positively, it woolies one to think over it. Yet, the bumper sprinkler used to boast aloud alone to himself with a accent on it when mine father was a boa constrictor and Hoy was a lexical student, parole, and corrected with the blackboard. Trying to copy the stage Engleseman he brought their house down on, shouting, "Bravour, Sir Charles! Letter perfect! Colossal, loose valor! Speech!" How he had been towed out of all the chicker families of the Klondikers, from Pew Pew Reich, Swab's Pace, the land of Nod, Shrugger's Country, Pension Danubia Home, and Barbaropolis, who had settled and stratified in the capital city after its hebdomadary metropoliacialization, a sun-blistered, moon-plastered, gory, wheedling, jovial, literous, and full. Ordered off the gorgeous premises in most cases on account of his smell, which all the cookmaids eminently objected to as resembling the bombinable puzzo that welled out of the pozzo. Instead of tutoring those model households plain wholesome pothooks, a thing he never possessed of his Nigerian own, what do you think Vulgariano did but study with stolen fruit how cutely to copy all their various styles of signature, so as one day to utter an epical forged check on the public for his own private profit, until, as just related, the Dustbins United Scullery Maids and Househelps Sorority, better known as Slattery's Malted Fut, turned him down and assisted nature by unitedly shooing the source of annoyance out of the place altogether, and they totally in the heat of the moment, holding one another's gonk, for no one, hound or scrub lady, not even the Turk, ungreekable in percent of the amenable, dared whiff the polecat at close range, and making some point-to-pointing remarks as they done so at the prefects of the sniffy, Your Honor, a bundelao wire stunk mister. James wishes to hear from wearers of abandoned female costumes, gratefully received. Badmelt jumper, rather full pair of culottes and undergarmentaries, to start city life together. His James is out of job, would sit and write. He has lately committed one of the 10 commandments, but she will now assist. Superior build, domestic, regular layer. Also got the boot. He appreciates it. Copies. Abortisement. One cannot even begin to figure out the status quo ante as to how slow in reality the excommunicated drumchondriac, Nate Hamish, really was. Who can say how many unsigned first copies of original masterworks, how many pseudo-stylic Shemiana, how few or how many of the most venerated public impostures, how very many piously forged palimpsests slipped in the first place by this morbid process from his pelagiarist pen? Be that as it may, but for that light fantastic off his nose's glow, as it slid lucifericiously within an inch of its page, he would touch at it from time to other, the red eye of his fear and sadishness, to ensign the colours by the bearlets in his madness, and his educandies to outhew themselves in the cries of gurgly, Gemma, Inquare, Conchambre, Sincero, Zinzavar, Tincture and Gin. Nips never would have quilled a seraph to sheepskin. By that rosy lampoon's effluvious burning, and with help of the simulchronic flash in his pen, a guinea a gurk he gets there, He scrabbled and scratched and scrabbled and screamed nameless shamelessness about everybody ever he met, even sharing a precipitation under the Idlish Terrier's umbrella of a shower-proof wall, while all over and up and down the four margins of this rancid Shem stuff, the evil smeller, who was devoted to old Father Sardanapalus, used to stipple endlessly in artistic portraits of himself in the act of reciting old Nichiabellis' monologue interior ear, Hanno or non anno, agel problem, as seratore QED, a heartbreakingly handsome young Paolo with love lyrics for the goils in his aisles, a plaintiff's tenor voice, a ducal income of 132 drachmas per yard, derived from Broken Hill's stranded estate, Cambridge Mannings, cutting a great dash in a brand-new 2-guinea dress suit, and a burled Hoxford hired for a first-K evening merry party, and a lovely long pair of inky Italian moustaches glistering with boric Vaseline and frangipani. Poh! How unwhisperably so! The house o' she or o' shame, chi va pieno, known as the Haunted Ink Bottle, No Number Brimstone Walk, Asia in Ireland, as it was infested with the Raps, with his pen name Shot, sepia scraped on the doorplate, and a blind of black sailcloth over its Van Fwynn's Hogue, in which the soul-contracted son of the secret cell groped through life at the expense of the taxpayers, dejected into day and night with Jesuist bark and bitter bite, calico hydrants of sulphur and scopolamina by full and 40 Quisianos, every day in everyone's way more exceeding in violent abuse of self and others, was the worst, it is hoped, even in our Western playboyish world for pure mouse farm filth. You brag of your brass castle or your tiled house in Ballyfermont? Nix, nix, and nix again. For this was a stinksome Incan stink, quite puzzle to the rotter. 'S matter of fact, anglers often on browsing there thought not Edom reeked more rare. My word! The warped flooring of the lair and sound-conducting walls thereof, to say nothing of the uprights and imposts, were Persianly literatured with burst love letters, telltale stories, sticky-back snaps, doubtful eggshells, bouchers, flints, borers, puffers, amygdaloid almonds, rindless raisins, alphabetiformed verbiage, biblical biases, ompiter dictas, visus ubimque, ahems and ahas, ineffable tries at speech unsyllabled, euomies, ioldims, flufoul smut, fallen lucifers, vestas which had served, showered ornaments, borrowed brogues, reversible jackets, black-eye lenses, family jars, false hair shirts, god-forsaken scapulars, never-worn breeches, cutthroat ties, counterfeit francs, best intentions, curried notes, upset Latin tin tacks, unused mill and stumbling stones, twisted quills, painful digests, magnifying wine glasses, solid objects cast at goblins, once current puns, quashed quotatoes, messes of mottage, unquestionable issue papers, seedy ejaculations, limerick dams, crocodile tears, spilled ink, blasphematory spits, stale chestnuts, schoolgirls, young ladies, milkmaids, washerwomen's, shopkeepers' wives, merry widows, ex-nuns, wise abbesses, pro-virgins, super-whores, silent sisters, Charlie's aunts, grandmothers, mothers-in-laws, foster-mothers, godmothers, garters. Tress clippings from right, lift, and syndrome, worms of snot, toothsome pickings, cans of Swiss condensed milk, highbrow lotions, kisses from the antipodes, presents from pickpockets, borrowed plumes, relaxable hand grips, princess promises, lees of wine, deoxidized carbons, broken wafers, unloosed shoe latchets, convertible collars, divil-you-care doffers, crooked straight waistcoats, fresh horrors from Hades, globules of mercury, undeleted gleed, glass eyes for an eye, gloss teeth for a tooth, war moans, special size, long sufferings of long standing, ahs, ohs, we's, sees, yas, yours, jas, nays, thos, so's, yeses and yeses and yeses. To which, if one has the stomach to add the breakages, upheavals, distortions, inversions of all this chambermaid music, one stands, given a grain of goodwill, a fair chance of actually seeing the whirling dervish, tumult, son of thunder, self-exiled in upon his ego, a night long a shaking betwixt tween white or redder horrors, noonday terrorized to skin and bone by an ineluctable phantom. May the Shaper have mercy on him, writing the mystery of himself in furniture. Of course, our low hero was a self-relator by choice of need, so up he got up whatever is meant by a Stourbridge clay kitchenette and Lither Gogalenu fowl house for the sake of eggs. The Ampel does not fall very far from the dumper tree, which the more melodious Jig Smith, in defiance of the uncontrollable birth preservativation, Game and Poultry Act, playing Lilary Rook Cookery Nook, by the dodginess of his lantern, brewed and cocked and potched in an Athanor, whites and yolks and yilks and woats, to the frulling fredonance of Mas Blanca que la Blanca Hermana and Amarilla Muy Bien, with cinnamon and locusts and wild beeswax and licorice, and carrageen moss and blaster of berries, and Esther's mess and Huster's mixture, and Yellownan's embrocation and Pintington's patty and stardust and sinner's tears, a cure-dent to Sheridan's art of penning, chanting, for all the regard to the like of the legs he left behind with Letty van Leven, his cantraps of fermented words, abracadabra calubra culorum, his oeuvres à la Madame Gabrielle de l'Église, his avs à la Mistress B. de B. Meinfeldes, his airs aus Guatemala à la Pomme de Ciel, his oeuvres and oeuvres à la Sulfate de Soude, his ocuri sauté saumoné à la Monseigneur, his soufflosion of oogs with somcat und toyest à la Mère Puard, his pogadovis à la Fenella, his fridex à la Tricarem, in what was meant for a closet. If only he had listened better to the four masters that infanted him, Father Matthew and Le Père Noble and Pastor Lucas and Padre Aguilar, not forgetting lay teacher Baldwin. Aho! His costive Satan's antinomian manganese lemolitmius nature never needed such an alcove, so when Robber and Mumsel, the pulpic dictators, on the nudgment of their legal advisers, Messrs. Codex and Podex, and under his own benefiction of their pastor Father Flammeus Falconer, boycotted him of all mutton-sweet candles and Rome-ruled stationery for any purpose, he winged away on a wild goose chase across the cathartic ocean and made synthetic ink and sensitive paper for his own end out of his wit's waste. You ask, in Sam Hill, how? Let manner and matter of this, for these our sporting times, be cloaked up in the language of blush-fed porporates that an Anglican ordinal, not reading his own rude Dunsky Tonga, may ever behold the brand of scarlet on the brow of her of Babylon, and feel not the pink one in his own damned cheek. Primum opifex altus prosator, ad terram viviparam et cuncti potentem, sine ullo pudore nec venio, suscepto pluviali atque distinctis perizomatis, natibus nudis uti nati fuissent, sisse ad proprinquans, flens et gemens, in manum suam evacuavit. Highly prosy, crap in his hand, sorry. Postea, animale nigro exoneratus, classicum pulsans, stercus proprium, quod appellavit deiectiones suas, in vas olim honorabile tristitie posuit, eodem sub invocatione fratrorum geminorum medarti et godarti, lente ac melliflue minxit, psalmum qui incipit, lingua mea calamus scribe velocitas scribentis, magna voce cantitans. Didipis says he was dejected, asks to be exonerated. Demum, extercorit turpi cum divi oriones jucunditate, mixto, cocto, fregorique exposito, encaustum sibi fecit indelibile. Faked Orions, the indelible ink. Then, pious Aeneas, conformant to the fulminant firman which enjoins on the tremulous Terrian that, when the call comes, he shall produce nichtamerically from his unheavenly body a no uncertain quantity of obscene matter, not protected by copyright in the united stars of Urania, or bedeed and bedewed and bedang and bedung to him. With this double dye, brought to blood heat, gallic acid on iron ore, through the bowels of his misery, fleshly, faithfully, nastily, appropriately, this Azure and Menshevik and the first till last alchemist wrote over every square inch of the only foolscap available, his own body, till, by its corrosive sublimation, one continuous present tense integument slowly unfolded all merry-voicing, mood-molded, cycle-wheeling history. Thereby, he said, reflecting from his own individual person life unlivable, transaccidentated through the slow fires of consciousness into individual chaos, perilous, potent, common to all flesh, human only, mortal. But with each word that would not pass away the squid self, which he had squirt-screened from the crystalline world, waned chagrin old and Dorian grayer in its dudhut. This exists that exists after having been said we know. And dabble take dabnal, and the del dabble damnable. So perhaps, agglomeratively as us speaking, after all an arclust for arclist, on his last public misappearance, on the deathbed of St. Ignatius Poison Ivy of the fickle crowd, hop on the 6th day of October, kill 'em our king, lay 'em low. Circling the square and brandishing his bell-bearing stylo, the shining keyman of the wilds of change, if for the sauce for the sassy, a souse for the sassiness, the blond cop, who thought it was ink, was out of his depth, but bright in the main. Petty Constable Sisterson of the Kreuzkroon Kralet was, the parochial watch, Big the dog, the dick the bog, the beggar the dugger, the begetted the gabag, who had been detailed from Polutes Totis to save him, this the quem, that the quum, from the ligature libelous effects of foul clay in little clods and mob mauling on looks. That wrong-countered the tenderfoot and evening near the living's means unium gatherum, knock Marie, compti me, reeling more to the right than he lurched to the left, on his way from a proto-prostitute. He would always have a little pitchiness somewhere with his arch-girl, Arco Iris, smog name of Murgit. Just as he was butting in reigned the coiner of bad times, under a heightful between the rival doors of warm beethels of worship, through his bordel house fongster. Greeting for gracious auras as usual. Well, ladies, have they that a dog mean-sort herring? There go, search me, the incapable reparteed with a self-evident subtlety so obviously spurious, and, raising his hair after the grace, with the Christmas under his clutch arm for Portsy Masser and Pertsy Messes and Pertsy Miss and Partsy Masters, like a prance of fine dingoes, with the shilto, shelto, slipney, stripney, in he skittled. Swikey! The all-white poor's guardian, palpably of Baltossic stamung, was literally astonished over the painful sake, how he burst himself, which he was gone to, where he intend to did he, whether you think will, weren't the whole current of the afternoon what's the sonch of his search heads of hits of him's urged, and staggered there too in his country ports at the Caledonian capacity for luto whiskey of the Caftan's wineskin, and even more so during, upon looking his bigmost astonishments, it was said him a shoe from the concerned human outgift of the dead mad dirt, how that a Rabbi Gibbers, consequent to the Dominical order and ex-King Noblish permish, he was namely coon at bring her at home 2 gallons, as per royal, full poultry till his murder. Nip up and nab it. Poltergeist kotzt don't her hoploids. Kick? What mother? Whose porter? Which pair? Why namely coon? But our undiligence has been Pluthero-tested, so enough of such porter-black lowness, too base for printing. Perpending that Putterick or Purcell pulls the cold stone out of winter waters, and sail the seas sing for herring or king, sept Octnov that's John Phipps's march. We cannot, in mercy or justice, nor on the lovum for Labyrinthos, stay here for the residence of our existings, discussing Tamster ham of 10 men's thirst. Justius, to her mother, Brawn is my name, and broad is my nature, and I've bright on my brow, and all's right with every feature, and I'll brune this bird or brown besses bungs gun bandy. I'm the boy to bruise and braze. Bows. Stand forth, Naaman of Noland. Come boldly in your true colors. For no longer will I follow you oblique-like through the inspired form of the third-person singular and the moods and hesitancies of the deponent, but address myself to you with the imperative of my vendative, provocative and outdirect. Stand forth, jolly me, move me, swilling though I am, to laughter ere you be put back forever till I give you your talking to. Shem McAdamson, you know me and I know you and all your shemeries. Where have you been in the uterim, enjoying yourself all the morning since your last wet bed confession? I advise you to conceal yourself, my little friend, as I have said a moment ago, and put your hands in my hands, and have a night's long homely little confiteor over it all. Let us pry. We thought, would, and did. Cur, quicquid, ubi, quando, quomodo, quotis, quibus auxiliis. Let me see. It is looking pretty black against you, we suggest, Shemewick. You will need all the element in the river to clean you after this, and a fortifying Pope's priest power bull of a tender to booth. You were bred, fed, fostered and fattened from holy childhood up in this 2 Easter island on the pie jaw of hilarious heaven and roaring the other place. Plunders to right of you, blunders what's left of you, flesh as flesh can. And now, forsooth, a nogger among the blankards of this destined century, you have become of twosome twimines forenst gods hidden and discovered. Nay, condemned fool, anarch, egoarch, heresiarch, you have reared your disunited kingdom on the vacuum of your own most intensely doubtful soul. Do you hold yourself then for some god in the manger, Shehohem, that you will neither serve nor let serve, pray nor let pray? And here, pay the piety, must I too nerve myself to pray for the loss of self-respect to equip me for the horrible necessity of scandalizing? My dear sisters, are you ready? By sloughing off my hope and tremors, while we all swim together in the pool of Sodom? I shall shiver for my purity while they will weep big for your sins. Away with covered words. New solemnities for old bedsheet baths. That inharmonious detail, did you name it? Cold caldor, ice, victory. Now, apropos of your underslung pipes, John Jacobs. While yet an adolescent, what do I say? While still puerile in your tub suit with button legs, you got a handsome present of a self-raising syringe and twin feeders. You know, Monsieur Abgott, in your art of arts, to my cost as well as I do, and don't try to hide it, the penal lots I am now poking at. And the wee sort of was you should, if you were as bold a stroke now as the curate that christened you, Sonny doth the candle. Repopulate the land of your birth, and count up your progeny by the 100 head and the 100,000. But you thwarted the wise pish of your co-godparents, Soph, among countless occasions of failing. For, said you, I will elenchate, adding to the malice of your transgressing, yes, and changing its nature. You see, I have read your theology for you, alternating the morosity of my delectations, a filtrate love, trysting by tantrums, small peace and penmark, with my Lubbock's other fair pleasures of a butler's life, sensibility, sponsibility, passibility, and prostability, even extruding your strabismal apologia, when legibly depressed, upon defenseless paper, and thereby adding to the already unhappiness of this our pop-eyed world, scriblative. All that too with cantrets of countless Catchelines, the manish as many as the miniful, accomplished women, indeed fully educated, far from being old, and not deterred either by bad weather when consumed by amorous passion, and rich behind their dream of arrivisme if they have only their honor left. Congested around and about you for acres and roots and poles or perches, thick as the fluctuant sands of Chalwader, struggling to possess themselves of your bush, one son of a sorge for all daughters of anguish. Solus cum sola sive cunctis cum omnibus. I'd have been the best man for you myself. Mutely eyeing for that natural knot, debituary vases or vessels preposterous, for what would not have cost you 10 bolivars of collar work, or the price of 1 ping-pang, just a lilt, let us trilled, of the oldest song in the wood world. 2-1, accompanied by a plain gold band. Hail, hail, high bosom heaving mistress mourner of the all sweet-heartening bride mure demeanor. Her eyes so gladsome, we'll all take shares in the groom. Sniffer of carrion, premature grave digger, resurrector of Lazars, seeker of the nest of evil in the bosom of a good word. You, who sleep at our vigil and fast for our feast, you with your dislocated reason have cutely foretold, atrophied in your own absence, by blind poring upon your many scalds and burns and blisters, impetiginous sores and pustules, by the auspice of that raven cloud, your shade, and by the augury of rooks in parliament, death with every disaster, the dynamitization of colleagues, the reducing of records to ashes, the levelling of all customs by blazes, the return of a lot of sweet-tempered gunpowder didst unto dust. But it never struck your mud-head's obtundity. Oh hell, here comes our funeral. Oh pest, I'll miss the post. That the more carrots you chop, the more turnips you slit, the more Murphys you peel, the more onions you cry over, the more bull beef you butch, the more mutton you cracker hack, the more pot herbs you pound, the fiercer the fire, and the longer your spoon, and the harder you gruel with more grease to your elbow, the merrier fumes your new Irish stew. Oh, by the way, yes, another thing recurs to me. You, let me tell you with the utmost politeness, were very ordinarily designed. Your birthright was to fall in with plan, as our nationals should, as all nationists must, and do a certain office, what I will not tell you, in a certain holy office, nor will I say where, during certain agonizing office hours, a clerical party all to yourself, from such a year to such an hour, on such and such a date, at so and so much a week pro anno. Guinnesses, may I remind, were just a garb for you, failing in which you might have taken the scales off boilers like any Boscop of Yorick. And do your little threepenny bit, and thus earn from the nation true thanks, right here in our place of burden, you born of travail and vie of terres, where after a divine's prodigens you drew the first water gasp in your life-term, from the crib where you once was bid, to the crypt you'll be twice as shy of, same as we, long of us, alone with the colt in the corner, where you were as popular as an Armenian with the faithful, and you set fire to my tailcoat when I held the paraffin smoker under yours. I hope that chimney's clear. But, slackly shirking both your bullet and your billet, you beat it backwards like Boulanger from Galway. But he combed the grass against his stride, to sing us a song of alibi, the Cathon call over the grey-bounding, slow-rolling, amply heaving metamorphoses that oozy rocks paragargle their preposters with. Nomad, homebreaker, hairy tyke, mooner by lamplight, Antinos, shamming amid everyone's repressed laughter to conceal your scratchophily by mating, like a thorough-paced prosodite, masculine monosyllables of the same numerical moose, an Irish immigrant the wrong way out, sitting on your crooked sixpenny style, an unfrill-frock quack-friar, you— Will you, for the love of Shakespeare, just help mine with the epithet? Semi-Semitic serendipitist. You— Thanks, I think that describes you. Europasianized effer-yank. Shall we follow each other's a step longer, drowner of daggers, whilst our liege, till yet a stranger in the front yard of his happiness, is taking— Heel helper, one gob, one gap, one gulp and gorger of all, his refreshment? There grew up beside you, amid our orisons of the speediest, in Novena Lodge, Novara Avenue, in Patripodium am Bommel, both out of work, one removed from an unwashed savage, on his keeping and in yours. I pose you know why Possum hides is 'cause he hain't the no-gum triumption. That other, Immaculatus, from head to foot, sir, that pure one, all truths of other times, he who was well known to Celestine circles before he sped aloft, our handsome young spiritual physician that was to be, seducing each sense to self-willing celibacy, the most winning counterfeit on our income share lottery, a chum of the angelites, a youth those reporters so petitively wanted as gamefellow, that they asked his mother for it'll up proper to let him come to Tindertart in peace, and bring his scooter along, and tent they were all real brothers in the big just right home where Dodd lives, just to teddify the life out of him, and pat and pass him one with other, like musk from hand to hand, that mother-smothered model, that good looker with not a flaw, whose spiritual toilettes were the talk of half the town, for sunset wear and night-fallen use, and day-broken donning, and noonchen showing, and the very thing for tease time. But him you laid low with one hand one fine May morning in the middle of your might, your bosom foe, because he mussed your speller on you, or because he cut a pretty figure in the focus of your frontispects. Not one did you slay, no, but a continent, to find out how his innards worked. Ever read of that great-grand landfather of our vision builders, Babu the bourgeois meister, who thought to touch both himmels at the punt of his risen stiff-staff, and how wishy-washy sank the waters of his thought? Ever thought of that hereticalist Marcon and the two Sissimades and how bulkily he shed the Ruction's Garnoral? Ever hear of that Foxy, that Lupo, and that Monkax and the virgin heir of the Morrisons? Blethering ape? Malingerer in luxury, collector general, what has your lowness done in the mealtime, with all the Hamilcars of cooked vegetables, the headfuls of stewed fruit, the suitcases of coddled ales, the parish funds, me shama man, that you kitty coaxed so flexibly out of charitable butteries, by yowling heavy with a hollow voice drop of your horrible, awful poverty of mind, so as you couldn't even pledge a crown of thorns to pawn a coat off Trevi's, and as how you was bad no end, so you was, so whelp you sinna pitre and sinna pool, with the chicken's gape and pamal de siècle, which, by the by, Rinaldo, is the ordinary emetic French for grenadier's drip. To let you have your plank and your bone wash, oh, the hest troubles you lost. To give you your pound of platinum and 1,000 thongs a year, oh, you were excruciated, in honor bound to the cross of your own cruel fiction. To let you have your Saturday spree and holy night sleep, fame would come to you twixt the sleep and awake, and leave to lie till Paraskevi and the cock crows for Denmark. Oh, Jonathan, your stomach. The simian has no sentiment secretions, but weep cataracts for all me, pain the sham man. Oft in the smelly night will they wallow for a clutch of the famished hand, I say, them bearded Jezebels you hired to rob you, while on your sodden straw impolitely you encored, airish and narbogglish, those horn-made ivory dreams you raved of the Ruth you called your companionate, a beauty from the Bible, the flush-pots of Euston and the hanging garments of Marylebone. But the dormer moon-she smiled Celine, and the light-throwers nickered. Who's whinging we? Comport yourself, you inconsistency. Where are the little apples we lock up in the little salt box? Where is that little alimony nest egg against our predictable rainy day? Is it not the fact, gainsay me, cake-eater, that, while whistle-whirling your crazy elegies around Temple 2 Mount Jointstone, let him pass, please, good Jerusalem, in a bundle of straw, he was Baptist after haymaking. You squandered among underlings the overload of your extravagance, and made a Hottentot of Dalpaner's Crossig with your thumbs? Am I not right? Yes? 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 Holy wax and holy fire! Don't tell me, Leon of the Fold, that you are not a loan shark. Look up, old Sooty. Be advised by Max and take your medicine. The good doctor mulled it. Mix it twice before repastures and powder 3 times a day. It does marvels for your gripings, and it's fine for the solitary worm. Let me finish. Just a little Judas tonic, my gem of all jokes, to make you go green in the gazer. Do you hear what I'm seeing, Hammett? And remember that golden silence gives consent, Mr. Ankle Gazer. Cease to be civil, learn to say nay. Wished. Come here till I tell you a wig in your ear. Agree, I say, the Bouseliers. Look. Do you see your dial in the rocking glass, Herr Studiosus? Look well. Bend down and stick me till I... It's secret. We'll do a whisper drive, for if the parishioners got a twitter of it, they'd tell the housetops, and then all Cadbury would go crackers. I had it from Lamppost Shaw, and he had it from the mullah, and Mull took it from a blue-coat schooler, and Gay Socks jotted from Potofeu's wife, and Rantipole tipped the wink from old Mrs. Tinbullet. And as for her, she was confussed by pro-brother Thecolicus. And the good brother feels he would need to defecate you. And the flimsy follets are simply beside each other. And Kelly, Kenny, and Keogh are up, and in arms. That a cross may crush me if I refuse to believe in it. That I may rock anchor through the ages if I hope it's not true. That the host may choke me if I beneighbor you without my charity. In your ear. Shh. Shem, you are. Shh. You are mad. He points the death bone and the quick are still. Insomnia, somnia, somniorum. Om. Mercius, of his self. Domine vopiscus. My fault, his fault, a kingship through a fault. Pariah, cannibal Cain, I, who oathily forswore the womb that bore you, and the paps I sometimes sucked. You, who ever since have been one black mass of jigs and jim-jams, haunted by a convulsionary sense of not having been or being all that I might have been, or you meant to becoming, bewailing like a man that innocence which I could not defend like a woman. Lo, it is to you then, Casmon Carberry, and thank movies from the innermost depths of my still-attrite heart, where in the days of your youth I ever mixed my mind. Now, ere the compliant hour of being alone at hands itself, and a puff or so before we yield our spiritus to the wind. For, though that royal one has not yet drunk a good let from his consummation, and the flower pot on the pole, the spaniel pack and their quarry, the retainers and the public house proprietor have not budged a millimeter, and all that has been done has yet to be done and done again. Whence days woe, and lo you're doomed, joy day dawns, and la you dominate. It is to you, firstborn and first fruit of woe, to me, branded sheep, to you, pick of the waste paper basket, by the tremors of thundery and Ulleran's dogstar, to you alone, wind-blasted tree of the knowledge of beautiful and evil, I, clothed upon with the meteor and shimmering like the Horizons, astroglodynomonologos, the child of Nilfid's father, to me, unseen blusher in an obscene coal-hole, the cobilibum of your secret sigh, dweller in the down and outermost, where voice only of the dead may come. Because you left from me, because ye laughed on me, because, O me lonely son, ye are forgetting me, that our turf-brown mummy is a-coming, a pillar, Beltilla, Siltilla, Deltilla, running with her tidings, old the news of the great big world. Sonny's had a scrap, woe. Bab's baby walks at 7 months, way. Bride leaves her rate at punches time, stud stoned before a racecourse full. 2 bells that make the one appeal, dry Yanks will visit old sod, and 4-tiered skirts are up, madame, while Perry McNee wears popular short legs, and 12 house to mix the tipsy wake. Did ye hear, called Cooney? Did ye ever, Philly Fortescue? With a beck, with a spring, all her rill ringlets shaking, rocks drops in her tatchy, tram tokens in her hair, all waved to a point, and then all innuendation. Little old-fashioned mummy, little wonderful mummy, ducking under bridges, bell-hopping the weirs, dodging by a bit of bog, rapid shooting round the bends, by Tallacht's green hills and the pool of the Fuka and a place they call Blessington, and slipping sly by Sallynoggin, as happy as the day is wet, babbling, bubbling, chattering to herself, deludering the fields on their elbows, leaning with the sleuthering side of her, giddy daddy Granny Ma, gossipacious Anna Livia. He lifts the live vent and the dumb speak. Quack, 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 quack.